We are ready now. We have a quorum, and I'm happy to call the Warrant Committee meeting for today, February 16th, to order. Lynn, would you please take the roll?
Sure. We have George, Lorraine, JJ, Susanna, John, Kathy, Christine, Emily, Muhammad, and Stephen, and Erin.
Great. Thank you all for joining us. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes that you've all received electronically. Do we have a motion to accept these minutes for these last meeting?
So moved.
Have any modifications or any change? We have a second, I should say.
Second.
Second, thank you. Do we have any modifications, any amendments? Hearing none.
Just
Yes,
George,
Kathy.
there's just one typo on the first page. There's one typo on the first page under the warrant discussion.
Yep.
It's APPA funding and it should be ARPA funding.
Right. Okay. Okay. With that change, we can make that change. If there are none others, thank you, Kathy. Lynn, please take the roll.
George,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
JJ,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Christine? Christine?
So sorry. Yes.
Okay. Erin? It's star 9, I believe.
Actually, it's star 6, star 9.
Star 6, Erin. My apologies.
Thank you, guys. I've never done this before. I'm wicked sorry. My meeting at work went late. The answer is yes.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We've all had issues of that nature. We're happy you joined us.
Emily,
Yes.
Muhammad,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
and Scott has joined us as well.
Very good. Okay. My remarks tonight are really confined to thanking Mike Dennehy, our town administrator, who has submitted his resignation and who will be leaving us for our job in the private sector. And I did want to put into our minutes the gratitude of the Warrant Committee, the present Warrant Committee, and the past 4 Warrant Committees that I have chaired for his leadership and his really active involvement in managing the finances of the town in a responsible and efficient way in a really quite a difficult period. And so I want to go on record as thanking him for a job very well done and to wish him all the best in his next adventure. So I have none other to add other than at the end of the meeting, we'll talk a little bit about reports of the subcommittees and being able to process the information that are coming in from the subcommittees and determine if over the next couple of meetings we need to have any of the departments come back for questions that subcommittees might bring forward as a result of their deliberations. But we can talk about that before we sign off. Tonight we are happy to have a few more. I think this is really the last batch, if you will, of the department heads here. We're hearing from the town clerk, from the cemetery, from the health department, and from our IT group. And we will we'll go a little bit out of order if that's all right. And we have Rob Mallett here. Rob heads IT, and Rob, we're very interested in what you have to say, so you have the floor.
All right, thank you. So Len, if you could bring up the PowerPoint, please. Just waiting on Len. All right, thank you. So I will try to keep this short. So my name is Robert Mallett. I am the interim IT director for the town of Milton. I took over for Jim Stroy, who retired about a year ago after 42 years of service. If we go to the next slide. So the department as a whole is primarily responsible for maintaining, protecting, and supporting all users, computers, servers. Pretty much if it plugs into the internet, connects to a computer, any form of technology, no matter what it is, I am there to support it and make sure it's running correctly and make sure it is securely done. So what this chart is just a small, very small representation of what I handle on a regular basis. But there is always been a challenge where every department can purchase their own software and equipment at will. And if they do so, I am there to support it. I would even give a broad example of police department buying signboards. I've actually gone out in the street and helped deploy a signboard. Right now, the department just consists of me as an interim director. I am actively working with the IT committee to come up with a long-term plan for the department, whether it comes with more staff, more money, however they see fit, we will figure that out. But right now I am working with the IT committee to fix the department as in the interim role. Next slide. So the services I generally support are general support. You know, how do I do this in Excel? I can't print, my computer won't turn on. I do a lot of consulting work with the different departments. When they're looking at new software, they're looking at new hardware, I will be sitting with them, doing their demos, talking to their vendors, and making sure that their invoices are working, you know, look correct with whatever they're purchasing. And then once they get whatever they're looking to purchase, I will help implement that said software or hardware that they're purchasing. And once it's all said and done, I will help them train, make sure they know how to use it. And beyond that, it's just regular website updates. You'll see a lot of front page, back. We do have some departments that handle website updates on their own. Lynn, for example, updates your meeting minutes and any pages there, but some people need a little extra help. I'm there, but behind the scenes, I'm scheduling and replacing equipment. I do manage the door system for the town and the police department, and I do assist with public records, whether it be an email search or a street camera footage or booking footage. Next slide. So for my budget, I'm not going to get too much into salary and wages at all. It's pretty straightforward. Nothing's changed. I'm top step. We do have the IT director still listed as a person, but I do get an out of grade stipend. So we won't go into salary too much. But for the expenses, the whole point of my budget is to focus on maintaining the current services we have, while at the same time trying to prevent trying to protect us from cyber attacks. So I want to keep everything stable, and I want to keep everything up to date, keep our software up to date, keep our hardware up to date. And the whole reason for it is actually on my next slide. So if we can proceed, is cybersecurity could be our biggest weak point when it comes to dollars. If we don't have our equipment up to date, if our software is not up to date, if we don't have proper backups or a proper antivirus, then we're at a risk of a cyber attack. And the numbers speak for themselves. Even in this list, just within the past week, the Quincy Retirement Board, through a phishing scam, lost $3.5 million. And it's not a joke. You could be held for ransom, where every computer in town is not functioning, and your only chances are, you know, either having the right defense in the first place or a proper backup to get you to where things were. So if we go to the next slide. So here are my non-discretionary items. I'm looking for just a one-time upgrade for DM Windows. I only need this one time. It's a complete rewrite of the software. DM Windows is used to keep track of all of our billing. Water, sewer, excise, any bills is managed by this software, which is a one-time increase. As for my software support, that consists of all contracts or contract-like items. So I'm adding Zoom. First time Zoom's been in my budget, so it's not even a cost upgrade. It's Zoom. We're adding Zoom. We're adding ClearGov. We got a new budget module. I am increasing my backup device. Pretty much I ran out of storage. The police department's working on a new software, implementing it right now. And they purchased 4 new servers, and that's why I ran out of space. So I had to get a larger backup unit. And at the same time, I changed vendors to have something a little more robust. That way I have a better, if I were to ever need it, we'll be in a better position to get everything back up and running. And the only reason I mention Office 365 is because there's going to be a 20 to 25% increase in licenses. It sounds like a lot, but it's more like $1 to $2 per license, but it adds up real quick when I've got over 370 so licenses. Next slide. So this is the last real slide of note. It's my supplemental. I mean, I'm adding overtime. I do support the virtual town meetings. I'm there with Bob Hiss and the select board. So I'm looking for, just overtime, $3,000. And it also will cover any town emergencies. The internet goes out in the middle of the night, etc. And my general expenses. So for this past fiscal year, I lost $37,000 out of my tech equipment, which makes it a little tough because I got 26, which was budgeted. Computers are $2,000 a piece and the server's 14. So I can either buy 12 computers or 1 server and a couple computers. It's a little tough to work with. So I'm looking for a partial restoration of my tech equipment so I can buy 1 server a year and then use the other 26 to focus on computers. For software support, I'm looking to change my antivirus suite from WebRoot to SentinelOne. It's a personal favorite of mine. SentinelOne does not work like a standard antivirus. It's an artificial intelligence that understands your computer. If it does something it doesn't like, it will cut you off the network altogether. And SentinelOne also puts its money where its mouth is. So they will, if you get infected and you are using SentinelOne, they will pay you up to $1,000 per device to get it cleaned out. The last thing is just $600. IT is a forever changing field, so $600 for training and education. And that's it. And if we go to the last slide, I'm ready to take questions, and I thank you for your time.
Rob, do you also back up the schools as well as the other departments? No, the school has its own.
They have their own IT department. So I'm completely separate of the schools. Very little do I do anything with them. They use our payroll software. That's about it. There's nothing, they're a whole separate entity as far as I'm concerned.
And in terms of the frequency of requests that you get for backup and different sorts of troubleshooting that you might have, how frequently do you get calls, and what is the proportion of time that you spend on that sort of an activity?
So to put it this way, we're working with the IT community. I submitted to them my tickets for everything from IT repair to attending meetings. And I submitted 255 tickets in just under a month. So you're looking at about 15 or so a day. But depending
and you're the only one responding to these, right?
That's correct.
Wow, that's heroic. When do you sleep? I mean, I'm just looking at what your responsibilities are. This is extraordinary.
It is. But as for how quickly I fix it, it varies on the problem.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Web, a few minutes.
Yep.
Computer won't turn on. It depends on why. It could be a few minutes. It could be a couple hours. It all depends on the problem.
Right. Okay. Yeah, as I would have expected. So Scott, you have your hand up. Please go ahead. You have the floor. You've got to mute. You're muted, Scott. You're still muted. There you go.
I know I'm on a phone, an iPhone. It's the first time I did that. Good evening, Rob. How many servers total and how many workstations total do you manage?
So servers are virtual. So we have 4 physical servers, but about 15 virtual servers. But as for computers, I am at about 185-ish right now, 185 desktops.
And the virtual servers are what, like VMware?
Exactly.
Yeah, and how many, okay, so those are all licensed. All right, that gives me a good hunch of what's going on. So other than the wages and salary, everything else in the budget is licensing and hardware expense, basically?
Pretty much, yes.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Christine, you have the floor.
Hi there. Can you throw your slides back up? I think I was not getting a firm grasp on the cyber piece, the investment, the incremental investment. So maybe like slide 4, is it in there? So
Regular means to avoid higher costs.
if you can just detail the additional investment you're making in cyber, I think that would be really helpful. I guess that's my question.
Well, right now it's for that, it'd be replacing servers. You replace one. So we have 4 servers, any computer, desktop, server. They should all be replaced every 4 to 5 years. That way they stay current. So you have 2 ways to handle it. Either you replace one a year, and that way all 4 of them get replaced across a 4-year period. So at $14,000 a piece, that's a lot of money on a server. Or your alternative is wait 4 years and replace them all at once. So it's a less of a hit, and it helps with cybersecurity because everything is staying updated. And you don't want to wait to year 4, ask for, what would that be? 14 times 4, 40, 56 somewhat $1,000 and be denied it because it's too big of a number. So you're better off replacing a little at a time, and that way everything stays up to date.
Is there any cyber training or anything in the training budget that was? I mean, are we doing anything else? I agree with you that it's a huge risk, and
so right now through the state, there's a state cybersecurity grant that we're part of right now, and they provide cyber training for the town. So we'll get a test every quarter, 4 training modules every quarter. And we get a test at the beginning and a test at the end. And that's how we're keeping up to date with actual cyber training. We did it last year. We're doing it this year. And I think we even did it the year before.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Rob, could you talk to us a little bit more about, I'm sorry, Lorraine, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, it's just a very quick question. Rob, you said you're the only one in the department.
Yes.
So who backs you up? Should you go on vacation or, God forbid, get sick?
There is no backup right now. It was a 2-person department when Jim Story was around. He retired, and I'm happy for Jim. 42 years, he deserves the retirement. But they never job was never posted. And maybe about 6 months or so after he left, I decided to reach out to the IT committee to come up with a plan for the department. So I do have to tough it out. That's all I can do is I can tough it out while there's no backup into a plan to put in place.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem like it's kind of a risk for the town. You're the only one who takes care of all of this stuff.
It's a big risk. That was the first thing the IT committee said, is that if something happens to me, the town's in trouble. That's the bottom line of it.
Not good.
Well,
okay, thank you.
Thank you. My question follows on that same line. We're talking about cyber attacks. Has there been anything you have been able to trace or to detect or to, have we had any of these issues, and what has been the response?
So I would say, keep in mind, I've been here since I started part-time in 2004. So I've been around for 17 years. So I'd say about 15 years ago, we actually got it was the Conflicker virus. And that actually was a ransomware attack where it did lock down and encrypt nearly every single computer in town and every server. And it took about a week. We had to go through our managed service providers to clean out every computer and restore every server through backup. But 15 years ago is not like it is today. Everything's on the internet now. 15 years ago, people were, happy, doing some Word documents. Fortunately, we've always told people save to the network because we're always backing up our servers, always save to the network. And unfortunately, there are some people who still won't do it, and they unfortunately would lost their files if they did not save to the network. But that was roughly 15 years ago.
Nothing since then, nothing significant?
Nothing significant since.
That's encouraging.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, Henny, you had your hand up first, I think. And then
Thank you,
Scott.
Mr. Chair. Rob, thank you for your yeoman's effort here. This is really impressive work. I sense the tension in your voice, and I agree with what Lorraine has said about the risks of town. There's no need for us to take this kind of risk. It's unnecessary, uncalled for, and we all know that IT is the hub of everything now. So we're rolling the dice with everything we have, literally. So I emphasize a backup plan should be put in place. And my question is there any insurance in the case that something does happen in terms of ransomware? Have you guys thought about that? Is there any plan for that, should that be needed?
I honestly don't know about insurance. I could check with HR tomorrow to see if through Maya, if they have any cybersecurity insurance through the town that I'm not aware of, but I would have to look into that.
Yeah, I've heard of other towns being hit, and I know a couple of businesses, small business owners like Scott, myself, these are the things that we have to prepare for. So it's just a quick, easy way for people to get money. So just I know forward looking, this might be something that we should think about.
Karen Praval, you have your hand up. Are you responding to that question? I thought you might. Welcome.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Yeah.
To you, Chair. We do have coverage through Maya for insurance in terms of ensuring that the town is secure, just in case we were hit with some type of security, but we do have that as part of the insurance.
Okay. Excellent. Good. Thank you. Scott, you have your hand up. You have the floor.
Okay, thanks. Rob, another question. I'm thinking in terms of backup, have we thought about doing some sort of an outsourcing with an outsourced IT department?
We work with GDS, Global Data Systems. They're the town's managed service provider. So we go through them with the backup. So they pick it out and we'll purchase through them, and they're responsible for the backup and making sure it's operating correctly.
I'm talking about personnel backup.
Oh, personnel backup.
Yeah, instead of hiring people, maybe having an IT company that can either be on call or, you know what I mean? An outsourced IT company.
I mean, they are on call for when I'm there, but I get your point for when I'm not there. And haven't looked into it. That's one of the troubles of the interim role is for me to implement a change like that. It's kind of taking a step beyond the interim trying to maintain status quo until a plan's put in. I don't know. So let's just say we went with GDS as my backup. I mean, we'd have to determine who can call them and what kind of an emergency. We don't want them called just to post a little web post. You'd charge $75 to post something to the web. You don't want that. If the internet goes out, yes, you want someone there. But the problem is, let's say the internet went out, they still need someone with the knowledge to know where's our equipment, what are our logins, especially, so they need an IT person to kind of assist them to get the job fixed. So it's a little tough just to have any other person in town to work with them.
Is your plan long-term to become the permanent IT person here?
If the plan's good, then yes. If I don't like the plan, then no. But I've been here 17 years. The hope would be to be director someday.
Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe the town would investigate outsourcing the whole thing, the whole department.
I mean, there's always a risk. I can say I'm in a union and the IT director was in a union, and I think a union would fight that one because you're outsourcing a union position. But anything's possible, I suppose.
Yep.
Yeah, just was curious. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from the membership? Rob, thank you very much. Keep up the good work and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Carolyn Kinsella, are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Did you get my PowerPoint?
Perfect. You have Yeah, you have 7 minutes. You have the floor.
All right, wonderful.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I think I just lost you here for a second, so let me get you back up.
I know there are
Okay,
going to be a number of questions for you tonight.
oh, that's fine. Yeah, so here's the first page. FY23 Health Department budget and who we are in the Health Department. Myself, I'm Caroline Kinsella. I'm the Health Director, Public Health Nurse. I work full-time. We have a new Assistant Health Director, Laura Delakai, 37.5 hours. Our nurse, Susan Poirier, works 16 hours, Public Health Nurse. Jean Pageson, our Senior Clerk, works part-time, 21.5. We are currently advertising for a health agent, which is vacant right now at full-time. We also have our Milton Coalition, which was previously the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. And Margaret Carrells and Stormy Learn are working 30 hours for us each. And we have our septic consultant, Paul Brogna, per diem. And our elected officials who are elected to our board is Roxanne Musto, she's a nurse practitioner. Laura Richards is an attorney, and Mary Stenson's a nurse. That's our Board of Health. And what do? We do a lot. So public health nursing, Sue's investigating the COVID cases. We did the COVID clinics. We also do seasonal flu clinics, all communicable diseases, food safety, inspecting the restaurants, sanitary housing. We have rental inspections to ensure sanitary conditions in the houses, pool and bathing beaches inspections, really pond to Cunningham Pond, tobacco inspections yearly, environmental and nuisance complaints, which can range from the trash complaints, rodent complaints, do septic, Title V waste management, the septic systems. We have about 3% of the towns on septic, emergency preparedness for the pandemic and other emergencies that might come up in the town, barn inspections, about 8 barns that we inspect. We issue animal quarantines for any dogs, cats, bites. Camp inspections, we had 11 camps this year. Pre-COVID, it was about 18 camps that we inspect to make sure all the required paperwork is in order. Plan reviews for new restaurants, new establishments, Milton Coalition, as I said, for substance misuse and also mental health. Burial permits, we have over 600 people who pass away in Milton, between Milton Hospital and Seasons Hospice, and we process burial permits. We sell sharps containers for needles. We take mercury thermometers, demolition reviews for houses that might be demolished and go through the requirements there. So we have a lot on our plate. Every day is different and we're very busy in the health department. Next slide. Here's some pictures from the field. We got the trash up above, the chicken complaints. We have the septic on the right, the leaching field. We got Sue's there with her needle. We're doing our clinic. That picture of all of us is the Milton Coalition. You see Cunningham Pond. And on the left-hand side, you see this is a hoarding case that we had trying to clean up that house. Next slide, please.
My God.
And there's myself at the stables. We have abandoned housing initiative, working on that. Tobacco inspections with the pool. You can see Laura Delakai there. She's inspecting a food establishment. Dogs, my dog Coda for the animals, and sign for our smoke-free and the tobacco that we take care of in the town. And then the FY23 budget, salary and wages for FY22, $309,988, and you'll see it went down this year, $308,644, and that was because last year you approved the assistant health director position, and we had it as a nurse was going to be in that position. And then we did numerous interviews. We couldn't find the right person. So we took the nursing part out of it and we decreased it from a level 8.3 to an 8.1. And that's why that dropped from 309 to 308. So our budget went down a little bit. And I'm happy to say that we did have Laura Delakai, who was our health agent. She actually took over as the assistant health director. So that's fantastic. And then our general expenses for FY22, $6,145. FY23, we're asking for 15% variance, $7,065. And if you go to the next slide, I'll show you where we're asking for that money. So we're asking for it for training and education, an increase of $225, and dues and membership. And this is for the new health agent that we're having come on. And as I said, we're interviewing for right now. So we do have to keep up with our memberships. We have to keep up with some training, and this is an increase that we're asking for. And also the AED, the life support systems, we have $295 that we've been paying out of the health department budget, but this AED is for the whole town, and it's located in the town hall in the front lobby. And so we're asking for that also $295. So the total that we've asked for is $920 increase from last year, but it's really like less than 1% because of the change in the salary. And that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Carolyn, thank you very much. You have a very, very broad mandate. Just looking at it, I guess the first question that I would have is if you had to categorize the intensity of what you do, I mean, where do you devote most of the time? I know COVID probably blew all this out of the water, but if you had to normalize it, where is the majority of the time that you all spend devoted?
You know, that's a hard question to answer. We are in so many different areas, depending on the season. It's either the pools or it's the flu clinics that we're planning for. And as you said, COVID just took over everything. Doing a lot of the inspections. Every day we can get different calls. Someone could be calling about trash. Someone could be calling about some rodents, abandoned housing. It just runs the whole gamut. So every day is different. It's so interesting. It really is. And so we try to, you know, do the best we can. You know, we are trying to serve the citizens of Milton, and sometimes it's very challenging.
Well, your enthusiasm is palpable, and we really appreciate it because I know you've got an enormous amount of things to do, and I congratulate you because it seems like they're all getting done remarkably. So let's see. Henny, you have your hand up. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Kinsella. You know, you are one of our, as our chair says, our unsung heroes here. You know, you did a real impressive job. And so I wanted to see if you could share with the group a little bit some of your learnings from COVID. I know you had a lot. They were substantial. We saw you, and I was proud to say this team stood strong with you to get you help before it really hit the fan. And it did. If those of us who waited in those long lines going up the library to get vaccinated know what was on the freezing cold, but people stuck in there, you know, it just was an incredible effort by your team. And so thank you. So I had a couple of questions if you could help us. One is the lessons from COVID in terms of preparedness, because that emergency response used to be a sort of mythical line, right? When we're going to need that, suddenly became everything. So are there things we need to do to be prepared in the future? The second one is, what is a health agent? Can you just explain that to me a little bit, or to us? I'm just, maybe others know, I'm pleading ignorance. Just describe that role versus when you move someone from the health agent to the associate director, what are we losing? What capacity is not in the town? And the third is in relation to, I thought last year we talked about, you know, the school nurse gap, and was there any overlap and partnership with the school nurses, especially as schools did not have nurses? I thought there was some coverage planning there, but maybe I'm misremembering.
So the first question is lessons learned during COVID. I think it was an evolving process, and we were learning as we were going along. We're getting a great direction from the state, having calls. We're still having calls every week, and constant changes with the regulations. So we had to follow that along very closely every single week and trying to roll with it, kind of rolling with the punches to just figure out what's the newest regulations and what's happening in Milton, that we can, answering a lot of questions. We're constantly on the phone with childcare and the schools too, who are a wonderful partner, trying to figure it all out. The second question, the assistant to the director, assistant health director, Laura Delakai. So I'm hoping that Laura Delakai can spearhead our community health assessment, which we got $30,000 Thankfully, the Senator Timmelty went to bat for us for our community health assessment, which we've never done before in Milton. And I'm hoping she can spearhead that and more grants that we're able to obtain in the health department. We have a lot of grants. We have the Milton Coalition, Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition that was previously $125,000 grant. She'll be working more closely with Stormy and Margaret to help us in that grant area. We also have a Mass in Motion grant that we just applied for. I'm waiting for that to do with food insecurities. So there's always some grants that we can build our health department and increase the resources to Milton citizens. The health agent, what Laura did previously, and she's still doing as we're waiting to get a new health agent, is a lot of regulatory and a lot of inspections. So her days would be filled with, inspecting the food establishments, housing, tobacco. So going out on numerous inspections in the town. And then the third question is about the schools. We have a wonderful partnership with the schools. I go to the health and wellness meetings at the schools, and I'm constantly in contact with Kim Coughlin, the school head nurse over there, to find out what's going on in the schools, what are we seeing in the town. And there was a little bit back and forth during COVID. The schools were doing something a little differently than the town mandate, so we're trying to iron that out a little bit, but all good. It's, as I said, we're kind of rolling with what was going on at the state level, and still, as I say, we're having calls every week with the state, trying to figure out going forward where we're going with COVID. I hope that answers your questions.
Carolyn, projecting forward, do you have the physical capacity, the people to anticipate the demands going forward? COVID, I'm hoping, is receding in intensity in what you have to devote time to, but as things open up and resume something that resembles a normal pace of life, do you have the capacity to continue with the inspections and the death certificates and all this other fun stuff that you do?
Yeah, and what we're hoping to do is add, and we're hoping to get this through the ARPA funds, is to really get a social worker, which I'd love to see in the health department, because we're always seeing something else that we can do. Whether, I'll give you an example today, someone called about a house that had bed bugs, and what could they do for this person? Buying new clothes or buying new furniture. And if we had somebody to help us in that capacity in the health department, create, help people with resources, find them the resources they need, or connect with Noreen Dolan at the Milton Residence Fund to get the resources for people. And I know with our community health assessment in Milton, we'll see a lot more of where the gaps are, so we can do more for Milton. We can do more for our citizens. So I'm really hoping for a social worker to come and as I said, when someone goes on the Town of Milton website, they'll be able to find what they need. They can get the resources because we'll have somebody to say, hey, we need your help. And someone that's in the health department and say, can you help this resident? Get some access to care or access to resources. So that's something I'm hopeful for in the future.
Okay, good. Scott, you have the floor.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi, Scott.
As always, you guys do a great job down there. And what I'm really impressed about is not only do you do excellent work, you also do excellent work with managing your budget and keeping your pencil sharp. And I don't see a lot of that. Some departments, yes. A lot, no. And I think I just wanted to give you a pat on the back for doing a great job of providing the services resourcefully, maximizing grant money, and getting the job done without breaking the bank. So thanks again for great work.
Thank you, Scott.
This is not to be patronizing. Our job as a warrant committee is to oversee requests of these natures and to make the recommendations to the town meeting. And it is rare to see a job that is accomplished as effectively as yours has been, and I compliment you and the staff, and maintaining a budget that is within the means of the town. It is a remarkable thing. And I often refer to budgets like yours as loaves and fishes, because you multiply and you just get everybody taken care of with a finite number of resources. So again, it makes our job easier. So we thank you. I thank you for that anyway. So I add my voice to Scott. So Henny, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Carolyn, one more question about from a public health perspective. You know, as I went into the city of Boston for dinner the other day, and they said, well, you're not coming to this restaurant without your COVID vaccine. You need to pull it, right? So I'm flipping through my phone. I'm trying to get my Clear app going. My Clear app is installed. I waited there for at least 20 minutes until, you know, my phone died. They said you could plug it in right here. And I thought to myself, wow, this is so, you know, and they had a whole process for it. There's a whole thing. As you said, the state produces these changes, and sometimes they come with money and sometimes they come without money. That's a big one that I see in the city of Boston that I don't know where the norm is going, but it's a little bit political, right? Town by town, but we can tend to see a future in which these kind of things could come to pass. And as the chair asked, in terms of future staffing, that kind of technology and integration, I want to know if there's any thinking around that stuff to help us get ahead, because this was very, very manual, right? Is there, you know, any things that we should be looking at that you said, you know, forward looking, this would really help us, could save us real resources downstream if we had this kind of application? That's one. And second one is regarding you. I know there's a lot of legal issues that you dealt with during this year, fighting about the different things. Was that was all covered by the town's legal budget? Just because I don't see any legal defense fund or anything, because I know you was quite a hot ticket in the health department with the law. So just if you could address those two, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
I'll address the first about the legal issues. We did lean on town council Kevin Freitag numerous times to kind of get through the intricacies of some legal matters, or when we were doing the mask mandates, and you know, he was helping us write up all the orders. So definitely leaning on town council to help us through the pandemic numerous times. And applications, I know we were working with Rob Mallett to see what I was hoping that the state would come out with is more streamlined some processes. We have Food Code Pro that we use for inspections that we're doing in the food establishments, but to do more streamlining on inspections and permitting really in our department. And it's kind of a difficult little shuffle because we may be able to piggyback onto building permits, but then building permits looks a little bit different than Board of Health permits. So we're thinking about getting some software and looking into that into the future, because it's a lot of work to process all those permits in the food establishments, tobacco, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I agree. There's a ton of work.
Any further questions? Carolyn, thank you so much. Keep up the good work. We're grateful.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you, Chair. So thank you, Warrant Committee. I appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
You're very kind. Thank you. Next on the agenda, Lisa Ahern. Hello, Lisa. How are you doing?
Hi there. Thank you.
We go from
Good.
Board of Health to the cemetery. There's got to be some poetry in this.
Yeah.
But we're grateful that you come. The last time you were here, we were talking about gas tanks. So we're interested to see what the whole picture looks like.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's go to the next slide here. We most of us know what we do at the cemetery, but we are always thinking about, you know, how we can expand on technology there, and maybe we could put in some GIS locating services for patrons. A lot of towns have had GIS services, and Alan up at Town Hall has talked to me about that, about getting people, some of our permanent residents cataloged, and put on a map so that people could go online and look their loved ones up and put them on a system where people could just go online and look them up. But mostly I'm doing outreach with people in town to keep the cemetery relevant and doing tours and trying to promote the history and the beauty of the cemetery. I've been working with the Council on Aging and the library. We've been doing an exercise program and a history program with the library and Homes Inc. And we've had several tours in. We became an arboretum last year. So there's that to draw people in and do educational programming with that. And we also have a cultural landscape to protect. And I'm really happy about the Preservation Act being passed and hopefully accessing some money so we can preserve some of our really important monuments that need some help. So let's go to the next slide. Obviously, we provide burial grounds and services for the residents of Milton and their descendants. We service 45,000 of our permanent residents, as we call them. I am designing and developing new areas to put full burials as well as columbariums. We have 104 acres to maintain as well as service burials every day. And we have to think about the historic landscape as well. So, and I'm working with people as a customer service agent too, and working with them day to day and, trying to help them see how important it is to keep us funded and moving forward, and that we're not just a static landscape. We are something that needs to be preserved and grow along with the town. Next slide. So our budget is kind of status quo. Actually, we went down 20 grand last year. We would like to get, so our salary and wages went up a little bit this year. We took on another man. We were down a man last year, and we went a whole year without him. So we're up a little. We're back to status quo on salary and wages. And our general expenses, I've put in a line item that I would like to put in a line item at 10,000 for waste management of our yard, that we have soil screened and product moved around every year, and it costs us about $10,000, and it's pretty imperative. We have a very small yard abutting a wetland area, and doing this allows us to screen the soil that we take out of graves and use it again instead of trucking new soil in. So we screen what we take out, and that way we're not making another huge pile that will take up space. We're screening it, taking the rocks out of it, and reusing it. So it seems like we're spending a lot of money, but we're actually saving money. So Next slide. So this is salary and wages, $2,000 extra for the new employees overtime. And the $10,000 for the landscaping, soil and screening of the loam, which is what I was just talking about. So this is something that we'd really like to have written into the budget. It's something that we've done every year now. They were doing it before I came, and I just think it's something we should just plan on every year. So. Thank you.
Lisa, thank you very much. I have a couple of questions before we open it up. When you were here last, we talked about gas supply for your
Yeah.
vehicle. And how did that turn out? Because we had a couple of suggestions for you. I think I remember John Driscoll had a couple of suggestions.
Yeah.
What ended up happening with that?
So I submitted a modified request to you with the portable tanks. We held off on that, and we're still going up to the town yard. We're not running all the mowers and blowers and everything right now, so it's not as much of an issue right now. I put it in as a capital improvement. So I'm hoping that we'll get it as a capital improvement. I made my case, and I might have, had some sympathetic ears.
Well,
So-
we understand you understand there's a question of priorities everywhere
Right.
in the town. And and so it'll go in the queue. The other question I had is in terms of the way that the cemetery is staffed, how many people do you have on, and what are the general hours other than when they're developing a site for burial? How do you manage the staff?
So I have 8 guys, and I have a part-time person in the office. The guys work from 7 to 3. They're pretty busy. We have probably 4 or 5 burials a week. So if they're not digging something or prepping something for somebody to come in, they're working on maintaining something in the landscape. So, or then there's the whole issue of monuments, and we're either setting a monument or at this time of year, we're not doing it, digging foundations for monuments and putting new monuments in, or customer service. There's a lot of customer service that goes with it. We happen to be a really good cemetery with good customer service. So
I'm assuming you're talking to the relatives of the permanent residents.
yes, I'm proud to say we have good customer service. Yes.
Thank you. Christine, you have a question. You have the floor.
Hi, Lisa. First, I'll put a plug in for the cemetery. It's such a wonderful place, and more so since Lisa's taken it over. I've been to a couple of classes there. It's wonderful. And I'll put in a plug for her Instagram, which is
Thanks.
Stories in the Stone. It's so cool. My question, and this is a little embarrassing because I've been assigned to your budget, I think the last 2 years, and I'm assigned again, so I should know this, but I can't remember. Can you talk a little bit about the revenue side of the cemetery and where that money goes?
So when we make a sale on a grave, so 30% goes into burial rights, and 70% goes into a fund called Perpetual Care. And then the services go back to the town. So there's an opening fee. There's a liner fee, there's different fees. And all that money goes back to the town. There's a monument, there's a foundation fee. There's a lettering fee. Any money that we take in goes right back to the town.
So roughly how much is that annually?
Oh gosh, I don't have those figures.
I mean, does it cover your expenses or is it half or?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're not losing money. Yeah. We're making money.
Important. Thanks.
Erin, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to follow up on that, Lisa. And last year, I just want to say real quick before I ask my question. Last year, you mentioned your the Instagram account, and it's one of my favorite things to see every day when you post. So really, you guys, if you're not following Stories
you.
from Stones,
I've got to
it's
get on this
awesome.
now. I'm curious now.
Lisa.
Oh,
I
you'd
gotta
love
tell
it.
you,
It's
one of
all
my
the
favorite things.
history. It's the
Thank you.
history of the permanent residence. It's the beauty
It really
of
is.
the.
It's
Oh,
gotta be cool.
great.
Yeah, it's got to be very
It's
cool.
wicked cool. So thank you, Lisa,
That's-
for that.
That's part of the outreach that, I can't start asking people for money in the future until I connect them to the cemetery
Right.
and them love it.
Right.
So, yes.
So I have two weird questions. One, I used to work in state government and I know we had what was called the general fund. And so if we received money that was something from a federal grant or anything like that, it went to the general fund and it could pay for that item or it could pay for potholes. It didn't really matter. Your revenue that you're generating, does that go into what would be a general fund here in our town?
Yes. So like I said to Christine,
Yep.
when we sell a grave, it goes to a cemetery fund it's broken up into two investment accounts called perpetual care and burial rights. And that is to take care of the cemetery in perpetuity.
Yep.
So those funds get invested and they take care of the cemetery in perpetuity.
Right.
Forever and ever. And theoretically. But all the rest of the money that we make for openings, we charge $1,000 for an opening. We
Right.
charge money for overtime on Saturday. We
Right.
charge money for a liner. We charge money for pouring a foundation. We
Yep.
charge, anything that we charge goes right back to the town.
So that money, sorry, this is like a point B to that. So that money could then be used to pay for schools. It could be used to pay for our snow and ice. It could be used to pay for, a DPW new employee.
Or whatever, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
okay. I
It's
just want to
going
make sure.
Fund.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. And real quick, I know that there's limited land. So how many more can we count on? What is our growth here? And I don't even know that that's the right words.
So I
But-
did an inventory, the last trustees meeting we had last month, I did an inventory and, we have about 20 years worth of sales for full
Okay.
body burials.
How about cremations?
Now cremations are accelerating and
Yeah.
they're accelerating because of COVID.
Yeah.
So it's getting kind of scary. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And
Last
were you
fall,
able to get that wall? I remember you were talking to the Capitol. It was either Capitol or ARPA or one of the finance
ARPA.
things. Yeah, the ARPA. I was sitting in on that one. Were you able to get that wall so that we could put the cremations?
they allocated money for a columbarium wall for us. Yes.
Great. Okay, great. Lisa,
Yeah.
you do great work. Just thank you so much. It really is. You guys join the Instagram. Seriously, it's so much fun. Thank you, Lisa.
Karen Praval has her hand up. I'm guessing she's got an input to that last question also.
I do. I just wanted to answer the question about how much revenue we bring in through the cemetery. Last year, the cemetery brought in $403,000. These funds go into the general fund. They're part of our local receipts. So our local receipts total around $8.3 million that we brought in last year. So that's a combination of motor vehicle, excise tax, departmental fees, police inspections, cemetery openings, health fees in cemeteries, and that's what's used to help balance our budget in terms of revenue.
So
Thank
we brought 403, and yeah, we're spending, nowhere near that.
Yeah.
We have some revolving funds as well that have specific use in terms of how you can use the money, but during the budget, we're always looking at different revenue sources that can help absorb some of the expenses that come up in the cemetery budget and in all the budgets, especially the ones that are bringing in revenue.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Scott, you have your hand up. You have the floor.
So the budget, I thought the budget was like $890,000. Is that what it is?
Mostly payroll.
Right. And you bring in sales per se, 403,000.
Yes.
So it does cost the town some money then, after all. Because if your revenue's 403,
Yeah.
but your expenses are 891, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I was just trying to figure how you were saying we were making money. I just didn't quite understand. That's all.
You're right.
But
I stand corrected.
Karen,
It's
your
okay.
hand is still up.
What's that?
Karen's hand is still up. Does she have something to add to this?
I thank you through you, Chair. I was just going to respond to Scott's comment that the budget, it's supplemented some level in the 403,000 that's brought in, doesn't cover the entire budget like our enterprise funds. So for our enterprise funds, those particular funds, which is water, sewer, stormwater, they make enough revenue to cover the entire budget. But the cemetery is just part of the general fund, general government. It's not an enterprise fund, and it does not bring in enough revenue to cover the entire expense of the budget.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
I look at it, Scott, I would look at it more as an offset rather than 100% coverage at this point. I don't know that you ever get, I mean, unless there's an unfortunate, mass, death rate in town. I can't. Yeah, that we would see that. Is it more? I have another kind of a strange question. Is it a higher ticket to do the burial of a body, or is there if you do bury somebody who's being cremated?
It's more for a full burial. Yeah.
What's the differential?
Definitely. It is twice as much to do a full burial.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
But how much more real estate does a full body take up than a cremation?
Huge.
Yeah.
3 times as much. Yeah.
So theoretically, if with the increased number of cremations, you have a higher capacity going forward potentially.
Absolutely, and you can put them above ground.
Right. That was that meeting I was watching with the ARPA funding on the select board. You had asked for 3 originally, right, Lisa?
Yes.
And you only got funded for 1. But if the trend is going towards more, we could actually, I don't want to say we can make money because that just sounds good, but we could potentially exercise a better way to use our dollars if we were to encourage cremation because they're cheaper and they don't take up as much real estate. And the ARPA funding would have covered that or can cover that. So it's just something to think about.
So what?
Unless people want to disagree, and I'm sure they will.
Karen, you have a comment on that one?
I do. So for the ARPA funds, the select board approved funding for the columbariums. The ARPA funds really are for expenses incurred by families that have buried loved ones that died through COVID. So we're still in the process of looking at a way in terms of costs that were incurred through the cemetery's budget that were related to COVID deaths, to see what we can do to try to utilize that funding and figure out how that can fund some of the expenses occurred due to COVID at the cemetery. But
So
they
there's
do-
the-
Here, if I can.
Please go ahead.
So Karen, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but in order for the increase of deaths that we've seen in our own town because of COVID, I think that there's got to be a way that we can fancy wordsmith to get more burial walls for the cremation of what the increase that Lisa has seen in the cemetery. I mean, we're looking at almost 1 million people that died across this country for this virus. And so I know that it impacted Milton. I know many people that have passed because of this. So there's got to be a creative way that we can talk to the federal government about trying to make sure that not only we fund one of them, but Lisa, I would just like to say, I mean, if there's a way that we can get this ARPA funding for 2 walls, that would be huge.
That's what I thought too, but they want to see any money that I have lost because as a department, because of COVID, that I need to recoup.
Oh, I get it now. Okay, I see what you guys are saying.
So
Yeah,
originally, I was appealing to them because I am losing space at an accelerated rate.
right.
Okay, I need this space back. I'm losing space, and it's because of COVID, and I'm losing it at an accelerated rate. So,
Right.
You know, I'm a cemetery. If anybody deserves ARPA funding, it's me. And but they want to see that I've actually lost money because of COVID.
I get it now. I get it now. Thank you for that, because I thought we could wordsmith. I mean, I know there's many
Right.
wonderful writers, just like Karen, I'm sure is, and we could have tried to write a grant or something for that, but I understand now. Thank you
I
for
thought
that.
the same as you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Karen, I know you've been involved in the ARPA and you had your hand up. Do you have something to add to that?
I just wanted to mention that, you know, we're doing everything we can, working with the departments and trying to figure out a way that, because these funds, depending on if they're through a grant through the Norfolk County, has to be approved by the Norfolk County. So we're constantly going through the final rule and looking at language specific in the final rule that we can provide the backup that they require in terms of being able to provide for the expense reports that are, you know, a requirement through the county for these funds.
Okay, got it. Scott, you had your hand up, please.
Yeah, thanks. Lisa, I was just looking at your pricing model for burials of body versus cremation. And if you want to incentivize cremations, I think you have to raise the price on the full bodies, because right now, a full body gets 3 times the real estate for twice the price. So they're actually getting a discount as opposed to, so what it's doing is, I don't want to say it's incentivizing full burial, but it's not from a real estate per acre. And your problem, what you just said, was you're losing land.
So they have to buy the grave first
Okay.
for $3,000.
Okay, I see. All right, I didn't understand that was, I thought just that was, the cost was included the grave. So,
No,
yeah, I get it. I'm just trying to think of a way to incentivize. If you make it more expensive, you just might more incentivize more
I know,
cremation.
but you also have to keep in mind, we're a municipal cemetery. We're not a private cemetery. So we can't go high, you know.
Okay,
We have to be, you know, reasonable for our residents. We're in line with most of the other cemeteries around. So,
all right. Just trying to think
yeah.
about way to extend your life expectancy there, you know?
no, I know.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Yeah, well,
So-
it worked, Scott. I got it.
The trustees have given families more burial space in that they have allowed residents to extend their family lots by putting 2 cremations on top of each full burial that's already there. So if your family lot is full, you can put 2 cremations on top of each full burial.
Okay.
Which gives us extra revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if the space is there, why not sell it?
Exactly. Okay. Christine, you have a question.
Last question from me. You mentioned the Community Preservation Act. Are there things in your current budget that may be mitigated in the future through projects you'll apply for to that fund?
GIS, the mapping system for permanent residents. Any cost for that could come out of the Preservation Act. Yeah. And, you know, it also is kind of like general maintenance for the cemetery. It will provide restoration for some really old areas in the cemetery if done properly, you know, as well as monuments, you know. So there are some areas down back with walls that are kind of crumbling, you know, so they need some attention. So.
Thank you. Any further questions for the superintendent of the cemetery? Thank you. Lisa, thank you very much. And I guess Christine is a subcommittee, and I know that she's going to be visiting with you. So thanks very much for coming. And thank you all for your questions. Do we have Susan Galvin with us tonight, our town clerk?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Hi, Susan. Yes, we can. Speak up just a little.
Great.
You're a little bit faint.
I would like to apologize. I'm driving. I have my mother who's in the hospital right now. So
is it more convenient? Listen, is it more convenient if that's the case? We can put you on our next meeting. I don't want to. It's up to you.
Well, I have the paperwork. I'm not actually driving, so it is safe for me to talk.
Okay, good.
But I do apologize that I am not going to put my face up on the screen. So I do apologize.
Well, if we want to accommodate you, we don't want you to be, you know, in any.
I do appreciate that, but I am ready to go.
Okay, well, you have the floor. We're all ears.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Chair Asher. Next slide. So the Office of the Town Clerk is the core of the local government and serves as a principal point of contact for all the local residents and the citizens at large. During the course of the regular business, the town clerk is in contact with every level of government. This includes state agencies, county government, and almost every officer and board or committee in the town of Milton. Its mission of this office to maintain continually improvement in the administration within the restraints of the applicable laws, maintain standards of quality and integrity, to be mindful of neutrality and impartiality, to render equal service to all by extending the same treatment we wish to receive to ourselves, and to conduct matters of the office above reproach and to merit public confidence in our community. Next slide. Some of the services that the office provides are vital records, both the recording, processing, and issuing, certificates and licenses, elections, public meeting notices, planning board and zoning board decisions, permitting, town meeting records, mandating the open meeting law, state ethics, public records law, and the census. Next slide. So the full service for the budget includes the town clerk's salary, which does include the 2% increase, A stipend of $1,000, and that is due to having certification as a Mass Municipal Town Clerk. Salary and wages, I am asking for the Board of Registrars, which is the registration board for all elections and voter registration. They have not had an increase. They get a stipend of $300 per year. As I'm sure all of you have been following with the elections, they are more and more complicated, and I do think that if we could consider increasing their stipend to $500. Then I have the general expenses. Next slide. So my salary and wages have gone up, and so has the general expenses by $2,510. The general expenses is going up mostly due to cost of dog licensing, tags, and different, sorry, I'm trying to find that piece of paper. Equipment maintenance contracts, software support contracts for our zoning, dog programming, board and commissions programs, and the printing of the census. And I thank you for this portion.
Susan, have you been, how do we collect for, or do we have to, for freedom of information requests and things like that? I know there have been several over the past year for people requesting records of one sort or another. What is the cost to the town for all of that?
So we do have a software program that tracks and keeps all of the data, the requests, who requested it, and the documents that we provide. That cost is actually absorbed into the cost for IT. That was changed to under their budget last year. And I believe it's roughly $10,000 a year for that program.
That's allocated.
Correct, but that is not in my budget any longer.
Okay, okay. But that the information is, like most other things, it's available electronically. So I'm sure it's something that is a lot easier to manage than it was once upon a time.
Correct, and we are required to keep track of everything and keep the statistics and keep a log of everybody who requests them, and that we provide it within the statutory limitations.
Have those requests increased in the past several years? To your, I know you've been doing this for a while, so your perspective is interesting.
Yeah, and they have become much more multi-tiered and require an awful lot of my time, as it does town council.
So if you had to allocate within your group, where is the heaviest concentration of your attention focused lately? Certainly within the last fiscal year, and even looking forward, where would you think most of your individual yours and the assistants in your office, how is their time allocated and to what efforts?
Well, I mean, because we have such a diversified area, you know, vital records, we process over 600 deaths a year, which is a huge increase. Marriage intentions, births, and then not just processing them, but then providing them to the residents. We have the public records. We have maintaining that everybody has taken the open meeting law, been sworn in, elections. So it really is, every day is a mixture of everything.
Can you actually perform marriages in the office still?
I do not, but they can be performed. I do not perform marriages.
Yeah, but they can be at the registrar's office, town clerk's
Correct.
office. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's good for me. Erin, you have the floor. You have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Susan, first of all, my heart, I'm going to keep you and your family in my thoughts. I cannot believe that you're doing this on the way to go visit your mother. So it's a job, Susan, and your mom is just really important. So
thank you.
Thank you for this. I just wanted to touch base on something that I saw that increased in our town council line item that I think relates to you, which is the FOIA requests. So I know that the chair was just kind of touching on that, but is there, there is definitely a department that is being FOIA'd more than other departments, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so do you have to report who's requesting those FOIAs?
So yes, but there is the ability for somebody to request something anonymously as well. And those two are treated the exact same.
They are.
Yeah, according to law, everybody has to be treated the same. Every request has to be the same.
Yeah.
And if it is a document that should be provided, it is provided.
So if I recall correctly, and I probably don't, so we're just going to put that out there. I've had a long day. I've never had to call into a meeting before, and my other meeting ran late, so I'm not on my top game right now. But I believe that our town council ended up having to charge us, I want to say it was only $10,000, but it might have been more than that because of all the FOIA requests. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to calculate how much more time the clerk's office has had to kind of handle because of all these FOIA requests that seem to go almost nowhere. And I'm assuming the department that they're FOIAing is the school department. So I'm just curious, how much, do you have any sense of how much this has cost the town?
So first of all, I do not handle the schools for a request. That's handled. Right. Amy Dexter is the point person for those at the school.
Okay.
So much for that.
So
I want
all of the town side.
Amy has to do that in addition to the other things she's got going on. Wow.
She certainly does.
Wow.
Okay.
That's
So
a
you
lot.
want to handle the FOIA requests for the other town departments?
Correct.
Okay. And those have those increased as well?
Yes.
Okay. And roughly how much do you think that that's costing our town from our own town members thinking that there's nefarious things happening?
You know, I haven't done an act, like it would be itemizing my time.
Okay.
And I haven't done that. And
No, Susan,
you bring a good point that, you know, I should start marking and categorizing that. And I will going forward because it would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But I haven't.
I'm one of the nefarious people. I actually requested a FOIA this last year. So Susan, thank you for getting back to me within 24 hours. You were amazing.
Oh,
And
absolutely. That's my job. And glad to do it for each and every person that wants
you
to.
just do yeoman's work. And I just want to say, you know, I can't believe that you just gave this presentation tonight. I will keep you and your family in my thoughts and prayers. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
Any other questions for our intrepid town clerk? Okay, Susan, thank you very much. We hope everything turns out well, and you have our prayers and support as well.
Thank you. I think I'm up again with elections and registration. So you don't get to say goodbye to me quite just yet.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
So elections and registration is under a separate budget. So next page. Or next slide, I should say, I'm sorry. So elections administration, the town clerk is the town of Milton's chief election officer for all municipal, state, and federal primaries and elections, and all that relates to the processes and functions of elections. The town clerk is responsible for ensuring its compliance with federal, state, and local election law to administer fair and equitable elections and to ensure that every registered voter in the town of Milton is given the right to vote if they choose. For those of you that have been following, there is an election reform bill, also known as the Votes Act. That bill aims to expand access to polls with mail-in voting and early voting periods, in addition to allowing for same-day voter registration. So during COVID, we did mail-in voting, very popular, and I am definitely in favor of anything that makes people want to vote. And so in terms of getting people out to vote, it was a very huge success. In terms of budgeting, it is extremely costly. So just for the, and you know what, we probably should go to the next slide before I start rambling on. So election management handles voter registration, voter list, ballot preparation, coordinating of voting places, certificate of election results with the Secretary of State and Mass Department of Revenue, certification of nomination papers and initiative petitions, candidate filings such as campaign finance, annual census, resident book, and also the list of the residents to our jury commissioners. Next slide. This year, we will have 3 elections. The first one, I was just informed after the slides went that our state primary will be on September 6th. So that can be updated. We will have early voting. I don't know what the exact language will be in the final bill, but currently it would be 7 days prior to the primary that we would have early voting in person. And then 14 days early voting in person prior to the state election on November 8th. And then the annual town election, April 25th, which under current law, we're not required to have early voting.
Susan, can I interrupt real quick?
Sure.
I'm sorry, only because I know this. It's April 26th. It's that Tuesday.
No, that's for next year. It's April 26th for this year. Next year, it'll be April 25th.
Oh my God, I'm a year off. Okay, thank you so much.
That's okay. Because we're currently in the throes of this year's election, so I get it.
I am. Thank you so much.
Like I was saying, the annual, currently we're not required to host early voting, although it's hugely popular with our voters. It is extremely costly to the town. So I am not budgeting for something like that for our annual town elections. We may ultimately be mandated to do that, but currently we are not. So therefore I did not put that as a factor.
Susan, can you quantify what is costly? Where the cost is there, please?
So it's basically on staffing and salaries. So to have early voting, and I don't know how many of you have participated in early voting. This is just in person that I'm talking about. It has to be staffed. So it typically takes 6 people to staff early voting. It's like having an election every day of the week. And we are mandated to be open during the office hours that the building is open, as well as weekends.
So this is people coming to the town clerk's office. We're going up to the desk saying, I want to vote.
So no, it's actually held downstairs in the Sloop conference room. People come in and they participate in early voting. So the ballot isn't
people down. You have to have additional people down there over and above what you've got up in the town clerk's office.
Absolutely.
Got it. Okay. There it is. That's what I needed to know.
So in over the course, just let's take the 7-day period. That's 6 people for 7 days 10 hours a day,
Wow.
it adds up
Oh, it does. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
pretty fast.
Yeah, I would think so.
And
Yeah.
then the management of, when the ballots come in, my office staff has to record it into the system and, process it, file it, get it ready to go out to the polls.
Right.
So it's quite an undertaking. And unfortunately, it's very manual, and you need people to do that.
Yep. Okay.
So that drives up the cost. And it is unfunded mandate.
Of course.
So next slide, please. So as you will know, this year we only have one election, and that's our annual town election. So it's a huge increase to have 3 elections, early voting. And if by chance we have the mail-in allowed, for the presidential, we had 11,000 people who requested ballots at that, and just the stamps alone, 70 cents per stamp. And some people lost or needed a second ballot. Astronomical amounts of money.
Wow.
So that is,
and we're mandated to do this. This is not, we don't have much flexibility with this.
correct.
Okay.
It has to be. So therefore, that's why it is just included in the budget. It's basically, it is what it is.
Yep.
So we have to continue on.
Got it. Right. Okay. Okay.
So just to give a little bit of a breakdown, poll workers on an election day, we have somewhere between 77 to 80 election officials per election. Just on that one day, we did have a increase in another polling location, on another poll with the split for precinct 4, having a 4 and a 4A. And then overtime with my staff is again astronomical because of the manual laborious work that, during this past presidential election, from July to November, I was working 80 hours a week, and I'm on salary. But my staff was working probably 60 hours a week just to keep up with the volume of every envelope that goes out. 11,000 had to be, you can't put it through a feeder because each person's ballot, you have to make sure it goes to the right precinct. It's the right precinct, and very labor intensive. And then for general expenses, we have trucks, additional programming charges, maintenance for the voting machines, unbelievable amounts of storage boxes because we are required to maintain every ballot for 22 months after an election. And then I did ask for a tally reporting system in this year's budget that will help to speed up the tallying. Currently, we type it in as the data comes in. A member of my staff is typing it up. With this software program, the software tabulator would come back to my office, would input it into this tabulator, and it would add everything together. And that is $8,000 for that piece of software.
Well, democracy doesn't come cheap these days.
It does not. Next slide. And think that's it for my presentation.
Thank you, Susan. Questions for our town clerk about the election registration process and all that goes into it? I don't see any questions. Susan, thank you very much. And again, good luck with everything. We really
Oh,
appreciate.
thank you
taking
so
the time.
much. I
Good luck
appreciate
with
your
everything.
time.
Well, yes, thank you. Right.
Thank
And
you.
to all the folks in the clerk's office, you do a great job.
Well, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. Well, okay, I think that completes the presentations that we have to consider. Scott, you have a question?
Yeah, okay, I'm unmuted. I just looked a few minutes ago. I think Rob Mallett was still on the call. Is he there? Can we bring him back up? I have a question for him.
Oh, Rob, yeah, go ahead.
Is he there?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
Rob, can you bring up that slide that showed your overall budget? I think it was one of the first slides you had, please.
Lynn, do you have that?
Yep, pulling it up right now.
Let's go to the next one. Next. That one there. That's it.
Yep.
I'm looking at the salary and wages.
Yep.
How many employees are there for this?
This is still budgeted for 2 people, for the IT director at his full level 10. Yeah, was it level 10 step 20 plus my level 7 step 8? But there's also a $13,500 stipend in there for out of grade pay tonight.
Okay, so I'm seeing a 9.2% increase in wages and salaries. Can you tell me how you derive that increase amount, please? Please.
I'd like to almost defer to Karen on that, but I think it's the out of grade. It's because I know these were her numbers. Is Karen still on?
I can't tell if we've lost her or not.
No.
Doesn't look like we have Karen.
Yep.
But we can certainly ask that question.
It just seems like a large increase in salary.
Yeah.
With no increase in personnel. What's
yeah,
that?
It's just the out of grade. So $13,500. I get $250 a week out of grade for working the interim director role. And then it probably adds on the $3,000 for the overtime I'm asking for. And that's it for salary. So maybe the percentage is wrong because I know these were Karen's numbers. We can always double back with her.
We can get answers to that easily enough. That's okay.
Thanks
right.
very much.
Got you. Are you okay with that? You good with this?
I'm not okay with a 9.2%.
No, I understand, but knowing that we can get the information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's good. Okay, so.
My hand is obviously up now because
I'm sorry. There you go. Yeah, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rob, I was listening to your presentation, but I wasn't able to unmute myself and actually raise my hand and do all the appropriate things when I was listening to it. So my apologies.
Okay.
First, I want to just say you are the only person that's currently doing this work. And for many other cities and towns, it has cost them hundreds of thousands. I believe you said Quincy was how much? $3-point-something million worth of
3.5 million. Yep.
Yeah. So I just want to say you are one person. That budget that you presented is for 2 people.
Yep.
And you're not even the real person yet. You're still the interim. And I would just like to ask you, Rob, since you're sitting here, who actually hires you? Because we've had an interim now for a while.
Yes, it would be Mike Dennehy would be the appointing authority, the town administrator.
Okay, so it's not a board, it's not anything, it's Mike Dennehy that hires you.
Yes.
And you've been there for 17 years.
Yes.
And you're still not permanent.
Well, I started part-time in 2004 went full-time in 2010 as the tech assistant. But
Okay.
yes, for the last year, interim on the director role.
And this is something that other cities and towns, our neighboring cities and towns are dealing with, and they're spending a lot of money to get it back. I just find that very interesting for our town, that this is a choice that we are making as a town. So Rob, I don't really know you. Oh, here we go. I don't really know you, but I just want to say thank you. I suck at technology. I suck at sharing my screen. Ask Lynn. So whatever you do, I just thank you. I can't even access my town email because I have no idea what my password is. So, you know,
It's one of my services. You'd call me and I'd reset it for you.
There you go. That was easy.
Yeah, I'm serious. You call me, I reset it. In a worst case scenario, I'd even take a ride to your house. I'm actually going to a board member's house tomorrow because he's having issues filling out the agenda.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's full service.
I just gotta say thank you for being the only guy that's protecting us from all the evil Russians, because you know they out there. So thank you, and I am gonna call you tomorrow and reset my password.
All right,
that's it.
Scott, you have the floor.
Yes. Yeah. This isn't a personal thing, Rob, and I appreciate the work you do and everything. It's just looking at inflation rates, even though they're up, according to all the government statistics, they're not up that high. And also, to pull this into making this an emotional, heartfelt argument is not really, I think, relevant to what's going on here. And to say that Quincy spends $3 million, we spend whatever we spend, in municipal government,
I'm sorry, that was for the cyber attack that they had to pay for.
I'm speaking right now, Aaron, and you
That's for the
also
cyber
made a
attack.
comment.
It's not for their budget. Be clear, it's apples to apples.
Aaron, you made a comment when I raised my hand that, oh, here we go.
The chair is taking this back, ladies and gentlemen. Direct your comments to the chair, please.
Okay, so what I'd like to say is it's a common habit in municipal government. Well, this town spends this, that town spends that. But there's also the marketplace, which includes the private sector. And I happen to buy IT services in my company. And I have a pretty good handle on what it costs per machine, for the stuff. I haven't done a deep dive into what you've presented here, Rob, but the point was not actually made. It's making the points that just because another town spends a lot of money, we don't know that they're buying that efficiently. And I'm just saying that, you know, these are nice emotional arguments, but the bottom line is that there's also a financial argument to it and a bidding process. And we also know the government, generally speaking, is incredibly inefficient. You know, you can look at where 70% of our budget has been is spent in one department. There has never been a look at reorganization like there would be in a private company for efficiency and for better services. And in the private sector, people are constantly reorganizing, cutting, and getting a better product out the door. So, you know, that's all I'm saying. And I'm just looking at these budget increases, and it to me, it doesn't cut it that another town spends $3 million. It's just, and it's not a personal thing. It's just, you know, we got to stop the bleeding somewhere someday. That's all I'm just saying.
Yep. I'd actually like to comment on that, and I do
Go right
agree.
ahead.
There definitely always a need to reorganize. We got to look at every item in the budget, but that's why I have the IT committee working on it. They have literally every invoice I've ever spent in the past year and a half. So that's why I'm letting the IT committee handle that type of reorg to say, what do we need, what we can do different. So I definitely support your argument that, you know, there is a chance for the IT department to reorg. And that's why I'm only an interim right now and not the full director. So just now use the opportunity to see what is actually going on. How has IT been run for the past 30 somewhat years versus what direction it could be going next?
Well, you've been there for such a while that I think your input is going to be valuable, and I hope the committee is going to take advantage of what you've seen. I mean, you know where bodies are buried there, so this is an important component of the decision-making process.
Yep. I also see Karen's name back in the top if she has an answer to that salary question.
Yeah, Erin, you have the floor.
To the chair, thank you so much. So, Mr. Chair, I just heard from Lynn. I will turn my camera off when I raise my hand moving forward because my curtains seem to be the same color as my hand raising. And
Got
so
it. Okay.
just so you know, I'm going to do that. But Rob, maybe I'm confused or maybe there's a misunderstanding. The $3 million from Quincy, that's what they had to pay the ransom people, correct?
That's what the, so it was a phishing scam. So that's how much the hackers stole.
So that's not what they pay their employees.
No, that's what was stolen.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that for everybody on this call. That is something that they had to pay above and beyond their employees for a scam that they were caught in. Okay, so their employees are not paid $3 million, nor are we comparing that to any other towns. This is what they had to pay to get their computer access back. Correct?
It's actually a frightening concept.
It really is. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear about the apples that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I'm done for tonight. Thank you.
Scott, do you have another comment?
Yeah, I believe that type of cyber attack is insurable, is it not? And are we insured?
So yes, I know Karen spoke earlier. We're insured with Maya.
Yeah.
And
I thought I heard that too.
Yeah, we are insured. I can answer you as well.
All right, that's
Okay.
good. Thank you.
But I did want to point out, Karen, it looks like Karen is back on.
Okay.
If she can answer that salary question.
Karen?
Hi, sorry.
Oh, there you are. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
You're probably going back and forth between different meetings.
Mr. Chair, I had to actually pick my son up. But I'm back. Could you repeat the question?
We had a question about the salary calculation for IT.
So the IT salary
and the 9.2%
includes 110,000. So for the salary, there's 110,000 that's allocated for the IT director's position, which is a vacant position. Then Rob is provided with a stipend that was provided as a contractor, for him working as the interim IT director. And then we have $48,000 that's allocated for Rob's salary because half of his salary is paid for. A percent of his salary is paid for out of the police budget. And then a percent so a percent is paid out of the police budget, the amount that is covered through IT. And I guess this is how it's been set up over prior years. He receives $48,000 as his base salary. There's $13,500 that he receives as a stipend. And the balance of his salary is paid out of the police budget. And there's 110,000 allocated and a vacant position for the IT director.
And that 110,000 continues to accrue and it's just staying in the general fund?
Well, I wouldn't say accrue, but this is part of the budget. So this money is still within his budget. So the FY23 salary and wages line, I didn't remove the IT director position because the IT committee is looking at reviewing everything in terms of IT and staffing and needs. So it is in the budget for, your committee at some point to review and decide what you're gonna do.
But the cash is, the allocation is still sitting there.
It still is sitting in the general fund, that's correct.
Okay. Scott, is that sufficient?
I still don't quite understand how did you derive, Karen, the 9.2% increase?
So for FY '21, you have the 161,217. The 176 comes from, if you give me one moment, I always share my screen. But if you're looking, you have the 110, plus you have the 40, but the difference comes from his stipend. So last year, there wasn't a stipend of 13,500 that was within this budget. He just received that stipend when that IT director's position became vacant. And because it's part of a contract that was given stating he's going to receive the stipend as, while he's interim director, that 13,500 increase, that's the difference between last year's budget and this year.
So is a stipend like a bonus for being interim? Is that what it basically works?
It's kind of like pay. It's kind of like out of pay out of grade pay. So if you're taking on working in a position that's outside of your grade, you're allowed a particular set of money. You would have to probably check with the HR department when that contract was set up for Rob in terms of getting that stipend. But it's something that is within the contract that was set up prior to me starting here with the town.
Okay, so that basically Rob's being compensated for the extra work he's doing.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Susanna, thank you, Karen. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us again.
You're welcome.
Susanna, you have the floor.
Yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Karen, that stipend is presumably in the, I'm sorry, I'm like, have a cold, so I sound horrible. That stipend is presumably in the union contract, correct?
I would have to look into that.
I
don't.
Rob knows, because he said he was working out of grade, so I'm a union lawyer. I recognize the terminology.
Yes, it is in our union contract. So
Okay.
I think the first 3 weeks I give to the town at my time. And then after 3 weeks, I get $250 a week.
Okay, so that's built into the contract. As long as Rob is in the interim position and is working out of grade, that stipend is virtually guaranteed by contract, correct? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Thank
All right.
you.
That's why I included it in the budget for FY '23.
Yes, I wish I knew how to take my hand down, but I'm done, George.
That's all right. Thank you. Thank you for asking the question. That also helps clarify.
George, can I ask a question?
Of course, John. Go ahead. You have the floor.
When the capital committee votes on something, do we get to question it when it comes? Does that come before us?
Ordinarily, it does, I
All right.
believe. I
So
mean,
I'll have another swing at this gas.
oh
fuel
yeah, I hope
down
so.
at the cemetery.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, however that's being resolved, yeah. If it comes, Karen, do you have an answer to that too?
Well, I'm on the capital committee, so, as we finish looking at our proposed projects, then I would assume that as like every other department, I don't know, this is my first year working with the town in terms of the process. I don't know I know that the committee is the one that will provide the recommendation on what projects we're gonna do, but it's not the warrant committee that can change that. But I
Right.
think it is something that is then presented to the warrant committee and what we have decided to vote on, but it's not a vote of the warrant committee to determine what that committee actually decides to do.
That's exactly right. That's been my experience. Erin, you have your hand up. Do you have something to add?
Really
or-
sorry. Nope, Karen just said exactly what I was gonna say, which is,
Yeah.
it's just like the school committee. We cannot,
Exactly. We
Yeah.
just vote them and they do it.
exactly,
Yep.
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so answer, John, we will get to see it. I think ultimately it's gonna be I believe the capital committee's call on whether this works or not. But we do get a chance to see it and ask the questions.
My only question is, there's all kinds of fuel a half a mile up the road. And she wants to spend $50,000 and bring contamination onto that beautiful property she just gave a big speech on. I just
Well-
don't see the reasoning why we have to duplicate fuel tanks when it's up the road, it's a half mile up the road. And it can
No, I-
save the town $50,000 to just keep, to go up to the DPW.
Yeah, I know, I understand that, and this is something, again, that as we go through the process, and this is something that when with cemetery subcommittee brings back this, and the capital committee brings back I mean, we've heard from her already, but when we see the capital committee, we do have an input, if nothing else. So I think it will be appropriate to bring it up at that point.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we've covered everything we need to cover unless anybody has any other questions. What I wanted to summarize before we go, and thank you all for spending so much time tonight. What I wanted to go over is that we will want to probably on the 28th or thereabouts, or the next meeting after that, discuss the subcommittees and their conclusions and anything that they identify within the individual budget that we might want to see as a whole committee. I mean, the whole objective as subcommittee is to go through the various line item by line item if you want, but to go through in enough detail to satisfy yourselves that we as a warrant committee have had the oversight exercised to make the recommendation to town meeting that we will make. And if anything needs to come before us as an entire committee, so that our collective brilliance can shine on what we're looking at and enlighten the town meeting further to carry the imagery completely through, this is the time to do it. So I would think that as you schedule the subcommittees, please notify the clerk and myself through the town website, through the town emails that you have met, and whether or not we need to have the individual group come back and see us. Okay, I just want to try and make sure that we keep that tight, because when it comes to drafting, we're going to be under some pressure to get this done again, as invariably we are. And when the budget, when the revenue figures come in, our experience of the last 2 or 3 years is that there are invariably going to be changes and a little bit of horse trading that's going to happen to keep things in balance. But I think that concludes our meeting for tonight, unless there's any new business anybody needs to bring up. Hearing none. So our next meeting will be the 28th of February, which is a week from Monday. For those of you who have school-age kids or are going to be away on vacation or doing things, I hope you have a pleasant time away. Erin, you have your hand up.
I'm really sorry. I just wanted to, and Lynn, we could probably do this offline, but you're gonna need, you need me to do that, right?
I'm sorry, I need you to do what?
For the meeting, that's a special town meeting on the 28th?
No, it's been moved to March 14th.
March 14th.
Oh my God. I suck at calendars tonight. Jesus.
No, don't worry about it. We have plenty of time.
I'm so sorry, you guys. Just forget, I had a day. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. We all have days, some days better than others. So, but our next meeting is the 28th. The special town meeting is the 14th. It's 4 items. And I'm sure there will be lots of discussion about the accessory dwelling unit. Less probably for the memory care and the 1 Elliott Street and the bonding, but I believe there will be significant discussion. Emily, you have your hand up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I also have a cold, so sorry for the voice.
Oh, you poor guy.
Around.
Oh dear.
Yeah. With the special town meeting, this is just a very quick question. Will it be in person or will it be?
No, it's remote. We got notification that it will be remote. In fact, I believe signed the legislation that provides for remote meetings through July of this year.
Thank you.
So with any luck, the annual town meeting will be remote too, which is actually, it's a lot easier for all of us when they're remote. But the special town meeting will be remote. And Lynn, I think that's going to get, we got it in time to draft it into the special warrant.
Yes, it's been sent off to the printer.
Perfect.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you all for getting your stuff in too. As usual, it kind of comes down to the wire, but we end up getting it done. So thank you for all who did that, the proofing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So our next meeting will be the 28th. As you meet, again, I'll underscore, as the subcommittees meet, please have, remember, you do have to register them as open meetings. So you have to file with the town clerk. Please don't forget that. And Lynn, if you're around and people need direction of how to do that, perhaps you can just point them in the right direction.
Happy to help.
Terrific. Thank you all. So I think that hand takes care of just about everything else. And again, I will wish you a happy President's Day weekend, et cetera. And thank you for joining. And if there is no other business, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Lynn, can you take the roll call, please?
George,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
JJ,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Christine,
We lose Christine.
yep. Erin,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
and Scott.
Yes.
And no Henning. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, oh, honey.
It's okay. I came late.
Thank you all very much. Good night. Have a good week
night.
and
Good night.
enjoy. Thank you all very much.
Night.